Hi there, this is Cindy Rowe with the most recent episode of The Kindness Advantage with Cindy Rowe. And today I am spicing things up. I have a special guest, no longer 10 minutes of kindness. We are expanding it. So I am excited to have a friend visit with me today. Um, Cara Houser, thank you so much. She is, and I will do a brief introduction and then I will have her talk. But she is a burnout and prosperity coach, speaker, and author of a book called Burnt Out to Lit Up, which I love as a marketing person. That is like a really cool, catchy title. So, welcome so much, Cara.
Thank you so much for having me, Cindy. It is my pleasure and treat to be here, and I'm so happy to talk with you about kindness, such a key topic. So, yay.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. That's why I love getting in front of as many organizations and businesses as possible, and humans in general, because kindness, although it is such a basic thing, it is so much deeper than that. In a past episode, I talked about the different layers of kindness, and we're going to explore a few different layers of kindness today. Do you want to, kind of give our listeners a little bit more in depth of who you are and what your background is, and a little bit more about, you?
Yes, happy to. So, I learned about burnout the hard way by doing it and getting stuck so far down in it that I really wasn't sure how or when or if I was going to be able to get out of it. I felt sort of permanently broken. My first career for 20 years was as a housing developer. So real estate development industry, and it's pretty full tilt, like frankly most work in our country. And 15 years in with 7 and 9 year olds, I'd been trying to be everything to everyone except myself for so long that I was just hanging by a very frayed and ashy little thread, and I just kind of snapped when we had a family emergency. And so that was my moment to really notice just how frayed and fried and hanging by a thread I really was, and to take the opportunity to actually do a little bit of reflection and to um, start to make the changes that frankly had been long overdue.
Yeah. Did you, before the family emergency, did you feel your life starting to fray a little bit? Like, were there signs that, man, this shouldn't be how it is? Like, I
Mhm.
mean, I don't think I've been to the full burnout, um, but I've felt myself getting that way. So that's why I asked. Do you have any signs that maybe, your life was on fire?
Yeah, it's such a good question and such a common one. Like, I think I knew. To some I definitely knew something wasn't right, but I also thought, "Well, isn't this just how it is?" I looked around, I saw everybody else kinda hustling and grinding and barely surviving and trying to do 2 full-time jobs that paid in the domestic realm of life at the same time, and so for a while, I internalized it as my failure to not be able to do these 2 full-time jobs beautifully at the same time, and, um again, the other thing is this is where comparison works the other way in a bad way. I thought, "Well, how bad do I really have it? I mean, I'm alright, probably."
Right.
And I just didn't think I just thought, "Suck it up, man," which is kind of what a lot of people think in our culture until something terrible, freaking horrible happens, and then we realize that we've ground down our health, our relationships, our resilience, our mental well-being such that, when something happens that's challenging, we just crack and break because we have no flexibility or resilience left. And what I did is what a lot of people do. I just chopped off all the things off my to-do list that could have possibly helped me in any way. I wasn't exercising, I wasn't sleeping well or eating terribly well. I wasn't maintaining good healthy relationships outside of the ones in my household. I just kind of got so busy trying to do the to-do list for everything else first and thinking, okay, well, I'll just get to myself later. Like, when is that, right? The to-do list is never going to be over from the outside world. There's always something coming up, whether it's the community, your church, someone's always going to want or need something from you. And until you learn to get your own, not even just wants, I'm just talking basic needs, but wants too, up high on your to-do list of things to do, you're gonna be a busted, burned out shell. You're not going to be able to show up as this robust, healthy, happy, like fun person. And that's another sign. I was not fun at all. Snapping at people, poor health, all the stuff you read about, exhaustion that cannot be fixed with any amount of napping. Not that I had the time for that. People would ask me what I did for fun, and I would just think, what a horribly dumb question. Like, I don't even have time to sleep. Are you kidding me? But now I just know what a heartbreakingly important question that is. Like, if we don't know what we think is fun or relaxing or cool in life, we've really lost something. We've really
Yeah.
lost a really critical connection to our core self, and once that's gone, it I mean, soul crush and burnout is not far behind, and it takes a while to build that back.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I was very near that burnout stage. And my similar story, I it's really hard to balance, the motherly, wifely duties at home, keeping the household running, as well as running a full-time career and keeping everybody else on schedule. And um, I went through, I would say, probably a mental health crisis before it was called a mental health crisis. And um,
Mhm.
that's really where I got involved with kindness and or realized the importance of kindness. Um, and also, like, after a certain period of time when I was running my own business, trying to be that mom that did everything, um, I was in a horrible car accident and I was forced to
Mhm.
relax and take things off my plate. Like, it it wasn't and maybe very similar with your family emergency. Like, I was forced to figure this out. And I
Mhm.
remember thinking, one thing that I have to learn from this whole thing is self-kindness and patience. And two of those things were never top of my priority list. And I sucked at patience, being patient. Like, and
Me too.
I had to learn, I had to figure that out. I still struggle a little bit with it, but I'm better than I was. And it took that car accident to figure out. But I thought, man, that's one of the biggest lessons I'm walking away from that car accident was, kindness to self and patience. So tell me how you dug yourself out of this burnout situation and what
Mhm.
others can learn. And I do have another question. Do you feel like, or is there research or things done that are women more likely to be burnt out than men,
Mhm.
and the only reason I say that is because we're usually in charge of our household, and just like you mentioned, we're balancing, and not that they don't. So please, for any men listening, I'm not bashing you, but I what I've seen in myself and my other female relationships is that we are running our households. We're making sure there's schedules. We're making sure there's dinner. We're making sure people got transportation, and
Mhm.
bills are paid and groceries are in the fridge type of thing. So I get are women more apt to be bound to burnout, and how did you dig yourself out?
Well, the statistics are crazy. It's somewhere in the 80%, 80 to 89 I've read in the last 2 years, depending on the study that you read, of people, all people, So that's men and women are reporting feeling burned out. Now, all the reasons I think may not be all the same. I think one thing that men and women share as a cause is that if you are a caregiver of any kind, of an ill relative, of a parent, of children, of anyone, and you're working, um, outside the home, if you have paid work on top of that, you are, gonna be pulled really and stretched really thin. That tends to be more often women for all the reasons that you've said, just because of societally where we are. I mean, us kind of Gen X people are the first generation of women that really started getting out of the home and into the workplace, but of course, the fine print was that we weren't getting rid of any of that other full-time job we already had, which was the domestic realm, and so, that's not very fun, and so one early just mindset shift step that I came to was just ditching the shame and the expectations that I had, absorbed, which of course I had. We all live here. All of us are raised in the same soup of disaster, really. I mean, it is actually impossible to do all this stuff at the same time all perfectly, and so just getting rid of that notion is actually pretty liberating because it enables you to toss it all out and say, "Okay, people, what do I really need to have in order to be successful and joyful in this life?" And then that opens up the door to a lot of different things. Now, everybody's household situations are different. There isn't a one size fits all, but one thing that is universal that needs to happen is this notion and an expectation that the woman is primarily responsible and everyone else is quotation mark I'm doing helping if they're doing stuff in the house they live in. That's not helping. That's you live here. You live here. That includes kids who are old enough to do something and spouses. We all live here and we are all partners in here. And we're not nobody's helping anybody because it's not anyone's default responsibility. So that's kind of just it's a framing shift that needs to happen so we can get rid of all this heavy, heavy weight of shame and failure and expectation that can be really way too heavy to carry around.
Yeah.
Um, as to your next question, like how do we then start to climb out when we're that depleted? Well, it's very step by step. I mean, I ended up having to take a career break of unknown duration actually at the time. I was scared, like I really wasn't well. I just needed to go figure out what was going on. And so I went through all sorts of stuff and I talk about this in my book. And so now it's like a kind of a greatest hits role where I take people through it in a really quick way of like, okay, here's all this stuff. And so the book that I wrote is essentially meant to meet people where I was and save them all that 2 years of trial and error ridiculousness so that they can kind of just be held by the hand and guided through in a very step-by-step process. And so the first step is recognizing what it is. We just talked about that. The second step is making space in our physical space, in our head, setting boundaries in order to hold that space. Um, in all the realms of life, we do that. And then we rebuild with healthy vision, mindset, habits, and practices that actually serve us and where we're headed and want to go, what matters to us. And then the last section is all about sustaining those gains. So it's not like we've just read this fun book and had, a week or two of feeling fine and now we're back in hell, right? We actually have sustaining practices. And the ones I focus on are resilience and joy. And I think there's a lot of overlap between what we're talking about. What you and I talk about is, just permission to have fun, have joy, be kind to others. And another kind of main premise in my book too, and one that you and I want to talk about, I hope today is around kindness to yourself. If we are not treating ourselves with respect, generosity, compassion, love, kindness, we actually haven't learned how to do that and can't really effectively do it for other people. These are gifts that are gonna be very, very challenging to offer to anyone else in a true, authentic, without strings attached, weird way, unless we have actually done it. And then the other obvious benefit is that this goes back to you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
How do we expect to offer anything of any value to anyone when we are just literally a fried out, pissed off, exhausted husk of a person? So
Right.
we've got to do the stuff that makes us happy, and that involves, yes, treating ourselves like we matter, kindness to ourselves, doing the things that light us up, putting them high on the schedule. I don't mean self-care like buying a bunch of products. I mean self-care like doing what you want, saying no to things you don't wanna do. Um, spending time with the friends that you care about, maybe less with the ones that are kinda dragging you down, like, really being thoughtful around how we spend our time and energy, and
Yeah.
learning how to put those boundaries in too is a huge act of kindness, frankly, even to other people. Because when we're doing stuff out of obligation, that feels kinda icky for everybody, and, if we can do it from like, "Oh, man, I'm really pumped to be here," really,
Yeah.
that is, and say really intentional yeses, but that only happens when we say no to the things that don't belong on our calendar in the first place. That leaves us room to give those really beautiful, kind, truly loving, and intentional yeses. So that was a super long answer, but does that
No, that's great. And I think you hit on so many nuggets of greatness because, well, first of all, I was going to say about you can't fill from an empty cup. Like you have to walk through that if you want to give to others. And um, matching up my story because ours just mesh so nicely together in different ways, but like um, when I chose to do my 31 days of birthday kindness, I I became a completely different person because I had focused on kindness to others, but what that did for me, it changed me. And I share this like the person I was on October 1st when I started it to the person I became on October 31st. They were two different people. I was not happy. I was not joyful. I was not fun to be around. And by the end, you know, I was a light. I was happy. I found joy in little things. And there was this transformation that happened. And although I was focusing on others, it really was the truest gift to myself on the 31st, which was my birthday, that like, wow, this was the best gift I could have ever given myself. And
Mhm.
now that I know how to do this, what can I do for me? And how can I continue this and make it a mindset, which I have. But it's, I think we often put ourselves last because we have so much to do. And I love the fact that you know you trying to take care of yourself, you have to put yourself as a priority, and that is a big shift to
Mhm.
do. And it's not easy, but you can't be all things to all people, but you should be all things to yourself,
Yep.
and figuring out what that is, what you desire, what brings you joy. And I love how you set the boundaries because I'm learning that myself right now in this season that I'm in. I need those boundaries. I have to protect, my bubble, and I deserve that, and it's hard, but I deserve that, and that's truly a gift to give to myself what I'm going through right now. So, you
Mhm.
know, what are other ways, do you believe that are helpful, to take care of yourself, showing up for yourself, um, being generous to oneself? What other ways or tips do you have for our listeners for
Mhm. I have a couple that people can practice kind of right now without having any big to do about the world. One is to stop canceling on yourself. One thing that I know I was doing in my burned out phase, and I know a lot of my clients do, is they'll have something on the calendar for themselves, a fun thing that they think of as quote extra or frivolous, even though it's actually essential for their well-being, like a fitness class, time with a friend, even just time alone to go walk around in the woods or sit on their couch and just like watch a show and chill out. And
that?
what they'll do is when there's pressure, some kind of external pressure from other people, work, the world, whatever, they'll tend to p- um, not say, "Oh, well, I have a conflict or I have a prior commitment." They'll tend to discount what it is that they had promised to themselves and cancel it and do another thing, and then feel tired and sometimes kind of bitter about it. Like, "God, why am I even, doing this?" And not stopping doing that, like, really treat yourself like like an appointment with the president, like, that would be so rude to break, like, you would treat yourself
Okay.
with honestly the same basic treatment you'd give would you cancel on someone else last minute like that unless you really freaking had to, unless you were, like, in a car accident or something? Like, you wouldn't. So, treating ourselves with respect is really powerful because not only do we then take care of ourselves, which is our responsibility, as you noted, we then are able the way we show up in the world, our whole vibe changes. I'm telling you, I've worked with people who've started to actually give a hoot about themselves and their time, and other people around them without it's a total vibe woo, it's like unspoken. Other people get the memo that their time is to be valued, that you can trust them because they take care of business, they do what they say they're gonna do. They give a vibe of like, um, frankly, they command better respect from other people on their own time because they have respect for themselves. We model how we what we expect for treatment by how we treat ourselves. And so that's A. Um,
I have a comment if you
Go
don't
ahead.
mind.
Yes.
I know one of those people.
Yeah.
And when I spend time with her, um, I know she's present. And I know, like, she's not somewhere else. She's giving us, me, whoever, if we're in a group, whatever, the full attention. And you can tell she's relaxed, she's enjoying it, but she also, like, you just know she's not somewhere else. And the last time we spent time together, that, like, I noticed, probably because I need to be more like her in that sense. And I was like, yeah, my phone is staying in my purse. Like, I need to be present here too, because before it would have just been on the table, right? And I I enjoyed that experience so much more just by noticing how present she was for us. And
Mhm.
yeah, like you said, it's a different vibe. She gave us a different vibe, and I was all in. I'm like, I want to be more like that when I make the intentional choice to be out with my girlfriends or to schedule this, girls' night out. Like, that's how it should be. Not, checking the phone. When should I get home? I wonder what the dogs are doing. Like,
Mhm.
wherever else, like, what am I making for dinner tomorrow? Did I put away the laundry? All those things, like,
Right.
and we're not together for like hours, so an hour and a half, like, I just, yeah, well, like you said, we deserve that. And it really does fill you up. It fills up you, and then you can go be better at all the other things. So I'm sorry, what was number B? I just had
I
one.
love that. I mean, and on
And then
that, like, in today's day and age, it is hard. We're bombarded with inputs at all times, and so unless we're really mindful about that, and like that's another boundary, frankly, a technology boundary is like just putting it on silent. Putting guardrails on it so that it doesn't just kind of become our like little baby bottle for attention when we're bored and we just look at it. And I'm guilty of it too. So haha. But I do try to put adequate boundaries around it so it doesn't dictate my life. I want to be in charge of how I spend my time and energy. I don't want to look back and be like, "Where in the hell did I spend my hours?"
yeah,
Um, but so I guess just to that too, give grace. When you catch yourself, like, try to give yourself some structure around it, and then give yourself grace when you falter. And that's the other thing is around self-talk. So we're making any changes in our lives, any changes at all, coming out at burnout. I mean, if you're like a sort of high performer type person, you're probably going to be like, I'm going to be the best burnout survivor that's ever. Okay, no, you don't. Just relax. We're doing this a step at a time, and we're just every step forward. We're retraining our brain to do some new things, and we're building new habits that didn't exist. And so not if, when we come off of the thing we're working on, the solution is not to like berate ourselves about A and B of stuff. It's to say, okay, fine. yes, it turns out I'm a person, and I'm just gonna get right back onto it as soon as I notice. I notice, I
Mhm.
switch. I notice myself going down a rabbit hole of defeating thoughts. I'm going to now notice that and say, okay, what are some self-affirming thoughts I could give? Like, I'm doing my best. Life is just not a linear thing. I'm just, I'm a person.
Mhm.
Whatever, like, sounds good to you. I mean, I know people who've tattooed mantras all over their body so that they always remember. But
Yep.
whatever you need to do to give yourself grace to go through this and frankly for the rest of your life.
Yeah. And I actually speak about that too with the kindness aspect of, at the end of the day, we're all human. And I'm not kind 100% of the time.
Mhm.
However, I have an awareness about it. So if I catch myself not being as kind as I've wanted to be or should have been, I'm more aware and I can go apologize or make it right. But then I know for next time, okay, probably should count to three before you respond, like,
Yeah.
but and I've been an intentional with my kindness for 9 years. So like it's been a forefront. It's been a mindset for me for 9 years, and I'm still not great. I'm not perfect because we're not perfect humans. So I love it. Give
Yeah.
yourself grace because yeah, as long as you're aware and you can catch yourself before keep going down that rabbit hole, you've definitely made progress. And I like that. I actually, to draw a little bit further, I don't know if you advise your clients on this too, but I, especially in the season I'm at now, I have a core group of people where if I'm in a big sorrow party for myself, I know I can reach out to them and they remind me how loved I am,
Mhm.
and like they give me what I need at that moment so that I don't sit in that sadness too long. Like they
Mhm.
appreciate, they let me, they validate it and they
Mhm.
acknowledge it, but then they help me lift out of that. And I am so grateful for those people. And I know this is a little bit different, but I think even if you had a couple people that when you could feel yourself starting to go down that not so great place, if you can't give yourself the kudos or the grace that maybe you have some great people in your life that can remind you how amazing that you are.
I am so freaking happy that you mentioned that for how important that is for you to have support system accountability partners, however we're calling our folks. That's actually the last piece of homework I give folks in the conclusion of my book is like to go to find um tap into your support system accountability partners. Find a couple of folks who kind of know what journey you're on, where you're headed, what you're working on, and can be that can serve as that kind of cheerleader, reminder, guide, validator, can hold space for you, but can also kind of help nudge you and remind you like, okay, but this is the path that you wanted to be on. And you're like, oh, okay.
Yep.
And that you can do often you can do that maybe they're not on the same path as you, but you can offer that same support to them on something they're working on. And like those are the most beautiful relationships where we just have each other's back.
Yeah, they're solid, and I so appreciate them. And as we get older, and I'd rather have three amazing people than 30 other people in my
Oh, it's so hard. I mean, nobody can maintain rich
life.
relationships of any large size. That is just too much to ask of our human brain and time. Yeah.
For sure, for sure. So we're getting towards the end here. Is there any other things that you would like to share that we didn't mention, or definitely give a shout out to how we can get in touch with you, and I'll make sure I put those in the show notes. But you know, I'll let you decide how you want to end this.
Okay. First of all, just thank you so much. What a delight it's been to talk with you and to share and learn more about your story and share with listeners things that they can do, which are pretty simple things. And it is a process though. So if you're feeling like, dang, I'm not fixed in 5 seconds, first of all, you're not broken. And B, it just takes a little while. I love connecting with folks, so I'm on LinkedIn is really the social media I'm on the most, so find me there and connect. I would love to, chat with you. Um, my website is carahouser.com. I've got coaching and courses, and I do speaking too. I just rolled out last week the super awesome sabbatical in a box course, which
Saw that.
is
I
like
was
burnout.
intrigued.
It's so cool. So it's like burnout recovery, but at your own pace and on your own time. And it follows the structure of the book, but through a video course kind of framework. And then, of course, my book is available, Burned Out to Lit Up, Ditch the Grind to Reclaim Your Life, all over the place. And it's an audiobook too, if you, like me, are an audiobook person.
Awesome. Well, thank you. This was such a pleasure, and you really did give some amazing nuggets. And I hope people reach out to you, buy your book, maybe get that sabbatical in a box, right? Is that what it's called?
Yes.
Like,
I do
I just
send
thought,
you a literal box of awesome stuff to help guide your journey. So it's pretty cool.
yeah, definitely connect with her. And I think, when we all struggle through life, it's nice to know somebody that will help us get on to the other side. So, um, again, thank you very much, Cara. I really appreciate it. And for everybody listening, thank you for tuning in on our special podcast episode today. But as I end it every episode, together we can create waves of change through kindness. Thanks so much for tuning in.